A train crash, the mystery revealed. Authorities now revealing what happened with the conductor on that Amtrak train, crashing at more than 100 miles per hour, killing 8, injuring hundreds. The new demand involving the TSA tonight after passengers revolt, 3-hour waits, missing flights, forced to sleep in airports. And just now, the senator calling for the head of the TSA to resign if it's not fixed before Memorial Day. Donald Trump tonight saying he would talk to North Korea's secretive leader in what would be a major shift in U.S. policy, and what Melania Trump has now revealed about the Clintons at their wedding. The 911 call, the horror inside one family's home after the wrong home is targeted. 2 teachers terrorized as their children were sleeping. And the world's biggest cruise ship soon headed to America, 23 pools, 20 restaurants, and the robot bartenders. We take you on board.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. It was an horrific and deadly Amtrak crash in Philadelphia, the train barreling down those tracks at more than 100 miles per hour. And tonight, an alarming portrait of what was happening with that conductor. The train rounding a curve going more than double what it should have been. Inside the cars, hundreds injured, passengers trying to crawl out in the dark. 8 people were killed. And tonight, investigators say the conductor was at fault as they now reveal what they say distracted him. ABC's David Curley leads us off.
Tonight, the newest clues about what triggered that devastating Amtrak derailment, seen here in these still frame images edited together.
Heard the noise from the brake and went, we're turning over.
Josh Gottbaum was in the 3rd car.
First reaction was, okay, am I dead?
8 passengers were killed, 200 hurt. The engineer, Brendan Bastian, had a clean record, but investigators say it was human error that caused this catastrophe.
He went in a matter of seconds from distraction to disaster.
Bastian, heading north out of Philadelphia, hears radio calls about a commuter train being hit by a rock.
Transit 1, listen to personnel notes, use caution. All units copy.
Investigators believe Bastian lost situational awareness as he listened to those calls, thinking he'd passed a dangerous curve, after which the speed limit is 110. He increases speed to more than 100 miles an hour, but his train is still heading toward that same curve with a speed limit of just 50 miles an hour. Investigators are adamant that if the safety system, PTC, positive train control, was in place, this accident would have never happened. The NTSB has been calling for PTC for 40 years, but Congress just extended the deadline for railroads another 2 years.
What would you tell them after this investigation?
What I would tell them is I hope we're not back in this room again looking at another PTC preventable accident.
The engineer remains on leave. A criminal investigation is continuing, and several families are suing Amtrak. David?
David Curley leading us off tonight. David, thank you. Tonight there are also major new developments as travelers across this country vent their anger against the TSA. And late today, at least one senator saying the TSA chief should go if this is not fixed by Memorial Day. Here's what he's talking about. The images over the last several days at Midway Airport right there. And at Chicago's O'Hare, lines several hours long, travelers missing flights, officials telling passengers to arrive 3 hours early. Tonight, there is new action from the TSA, but we ask, is it enough? ABC's Alex Perez is at O'Hare Airport.
Tonight, flyers are furious and fed up.
Are you kidding me, TSA? What the
With epic lines and thousands of missed flights, there are calls tonight for the TSA head to resign if he doesn't shorten lines by Memorial Day in about 2 weeks.
There's got to be a better way.
It's so bad, passengers in Chicago have had to sleep on those cots at times.
Not the greatest.
And tonight, news that 100 part-time screeners here will be rushed into full-time work by this weekend, with 250 more screeners being sent in the coming months.
So check it out, just arriving here at O'Hare and the lines are already growing. Experts say to beat the lines, avoid flying early morning and in the evening.
The crunch is being felt around the country, all due to tighter security since the Brussels attacks, with fewer security officers screening a surge in passengers. Since 2013, the number of TSA officers has fallen by 5,000 agents, but passenger volume has spiked over 8%, 68 million more U.S. flyers in the air.
And David, more and more airports now considering joining Chicago and Denver and asking passengers to show up to the airport 3 hours ahead of time for domestic flights. David?
It's going to be an ugly few weeks ahead, Alex. Thank you. Millions are bracing tonight for tornadoes and high winds at this hour. In fact, 7 reported tornadoes in just the past 24 hours. This one right here in Texas. Images of funnel clouds in Florida coming in late today as they now prepare for a dangerous night ahead. ABC's Philip Mena is in San Marcos, Texas.
Tonight, funnel clouds dropping from Florida skies. Powerful thunderstorms flooding streets and damaging homes. This as millions in the south brace for severe weather. From Oklahoma to Texas, twisters and huge hail, hitting with the force of major league fastballs, cracking this storm chaser's windshield. Along with all of this, days of heavy rain stranding drivers.
The heavy rains have left the west side of Corpus Christi severely flooded, like you can see here on Castores, where 18-wheelers and SUVs are having a hard time driving through.
The area getting more than a foot of rain in 48 hours, and more on the way. Tonight along the Blanco River, residents here are watching the skies closely. Rivers and streams are already at capacity, and any more rain could lead to flash flooding. David?
It's been a rough couple of days, Philip. Thank you. And we're tracking it again tonight with Rob. Hey, Rob.
And David, a couple of spots with heavy action tonight. We start with the severe weather threat in Texas. This watch is up until 10 p.m. So heavy winds and hail, but rain is going to be an issue. As Philip mentioned, saturated there. Houston over 25 inches above average for the last 12 months. Florida today also getting hammered. Look at these storms today. We've had 74-mile-per-hour winds, so damaging winds across much of the state. And the future radar shows more action coming tonight, so a long night ahead for them. And the overall trend over the next 4 to 5 days, very wet from Louisiana, Texas, right through the mid-Atlantic. D.C. has seen rain nearly every day this month, and that pattern is going to continue through the rest of the week.
All right, Bob, our thanks to you again tonight. As much of the country braces for rain and high winds tonight, overnight it was a passenger jet that was rocked by unexpected turbulence. So severe, the jet had to turn around to get passengers and crew emergency help. Here's ABC's Lindsay Davis.
Tonight, more than 130 passengers and crew are still recovering from turbulence so severe the pilot had to turn back.
There was 3 or 4 other people on the plane that were throwing up.
The Southwest jet left Boston at 11 o'clock last night for Chicago. Less than an hour later, the plane hit turbulence so intense it was forced to return to Boston.
Sir, we also have another medical. Can you meet EMS at the crash gate?
2 flight attendants were taken to the hospital. 2 other passengers were hurt. In just the past 2 weeks, more than 50 people have been injured by extreme turbulence. 8 on this JetBlue flight that also spilled debris across the cabin. And 31 were injured on this flight to Indonesia. But there's hope that turbulent flights could soon be reduced dramatically. New technology like this, cutting-edge radar software, could make it easier for pilots to spot turbulence ahead and try to avoid rough air altogether.
After changing planes and flight crews, those passengers headed to Chicago finally made it safely to their destination around 3:30 this morning. David.
Finally. All right, Lindsay, thank you. Now to the race for the White House tonight. Primaries in Kentucky and Oregon today. And tonight, Donald Trump revealing he would talk to North Korea's secretive leader. That would be a major shift in U.S. policy. As Melania Trump and what she's now saying about the Clintons at her wedding. Donald Trump taking aim at both Clintons. But of the 3 of them, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, and former President Clinton, who is the most popular? Tonight, the numbers right here. And here's ABC's Cecilia Vega.
From Hillary Clinton's allies tonight, a scathing attack on Donald Trump, using Trump's own words.
You know, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever. Does she have a good body? No. Does she have a fat ass? Absolutely.
The first shot in a $130 million ad campaign by a pro-Clinton super PAC.
And you can tell them to go themselves.
Does Donald Trump really speak for you?
Trump now throwing a counterpunch at both Clintons after Hillary hinted Bill would have a key role in her administration.
My husband, who I'm going to put in charge of revitalizing the economy, because, you know, he knows how to do it.
Trump today tweeting, "Crooked Hillary said her husband is going to be in charge of the economy. If so, he should run, not her." But the fact is, Bill Clinton is more popular than his wife and twice as popular as Trump. In one recent poll, Trump's favorability rating 29%, 44% for Hillary Clinton, and Bill Clinton's 58%. Hillary Clinton battling Bernie Sanders tonight in the Kentucky and Oregon primaries, hopes her husband reminds voters of the economic boom of the 90s. Trump wants to remind them of a different chapter.
In the history of politics, Hillary Clinton's husband abused women more than any man that we know of in the history of politics, right?
But the former president's strategy, for now at least, rarely even mentioning Donald Trump's name. And tonight, a new dig from Trump's wife, Melania. The Clintons famously attended their wedding, but Melania Trump now saying in an interview, "I don't think they sent a gift." And she goes on to defend her husband, saying, quote, "He's not Hitler. He wants to help America. He wants to unite people."
And Cecilia Vega joins us now from Louisville, Kentucky tonight. Cecilia, Donald Trump today saying he'd make another major break with American foreign policy, this time involving North Korea's mysterious leader.
He did, David. He said he would be willing to meet with North Korea's Kim Jong-un to try to stop that country's nuclear program. Donald Trump said, quote, "I would have no problem speaking to him. There are currently 2 Americans detained in that country right now. And as you said, a meeting with that country's leader would mark a major shift in U.S. policy." David.
All right, indeed. Cecilia Vega, thanks. In a gray and wet Louisville there. Cecilia, thank you. Next tonight, back here at home to a former police officer who was arrested in Texas years after a shooting death while on duty in St. Louis. Shooting a suspect at point-blank range. Jason Stockley is charged with first-degree murder now. There was a high-speed chase at the time. Police say they thought they saw a drug deal. When the chase ended, I should say, Stockley allegedly walked up to the car and then fired. Anthony Lamar Smith took 5 bullets through the driver's side window. Next tonight, here to a controversial move in one Mississippi town. 2 high schools, one predominantly black, the other mostly white. But so close, the railroad tracks the only thing between them. A court tonight ordering the 2 schools to integrate to create a more diverse student body in both schools. But not everyone is happy. Here's ABC's Steve Osinsami.
The court order sounds damning and forces the Cleveland, Mississippi School District to combine schools, creating new ones that aren't so racially separate. Eastside High, for example, that's 100% African American, would merge with Cleveland High, that's predominantly white. But here's a wrinkle. The black school is the one with better scores. Take a look at a map of the town. An old railroad line divides it. Schools with the most white students are on this side of the tracks. Schools almost entirely black are on the other. Some families worry that busing students around will encourage more white families to leave.
Bad idea because you're trying to force kids to go to schools they don't want to go to. And it's going to cause people to move or go to a different school.
No one is accusing current school officials of willfully segregating children like it was 1950. But federal officials say they're not doing enough to keep schools from becoming segregated on their own. It's an issue across the country. Here's a look at some of the most segregated states for black students. New York, California, Illinois, and Maryland top the list. In a statement tonight, Mississippi school officials say they plan to appeal. David?
Steve Osinsami with us again tonight. We turn next here to an ABC News exclusive to the gangs right next door across our border and ready to send more of their members to the U.S. They're already here, in fact, in 46 states. Nightline anchor Dan Harris takes us to the tiny cells overflowing in El Salvador. Gang members who likely know many who are already here. And just look at what Dan found.
It's the middle of the night in the murder capital of the world. We're in El Salvador on patrol with armed-to-the-teeth cops who take us to this rundown police station where they're holding allegedly vicious combatants in this country's all-out gang war. As we approach the cells, the low roar abruptly extinguished.
How many people are they holding here? 169 people in here? I'm sure you can get a sense of how small this is, but this is tiny. They're just piled on top of each other.
They're only supposed to be in here for 72 hours.
How long have you been in?
Un año.
1 year.
And now these El Salvadoran gangs are exporting death directly into America, active in 46 states because of a revolving door of illegal immigration and deportation. Here, the violence doesn't rest even for those in mourning. This grieving mother is holding a wake for her 17-year-old son, Alexis, murdered by gangs just last night. And right in the middle of the service, gunfire. Chaotic scene. The madness in El Salvador is sending a massive flow of illegal immigrants over the American border, many of them kids traveling alone.